Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order if I could. The first item is a moment of silent reflection, so just I'll take a moment. Good. Thank you. Joining me in the council chamber is Chief Administrative Officer Joe Thompson, City Clerk Tatiana Defoe, Director of Human Resources Jackie Mockler, and Communications Manager Mike Weitz. Our first item is declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none, item 3 is adoption of the minutes, that the minutes of the regular meeting dated April 27, 2020, and the special meeting dated May 5th, 2020 of Council of the Corporation of the City of Stratford be adopted as printed. Moved by Councillor Henderson and seconded by Councillor Beattie. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 4 is an adoption of the addenda to today's agenda, and there is not one today, so we'll just pass through there, and we'll go on to item number 5. And it is from 5.1 that from the April 27, 2020 session in camera under the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, a matter concerning the following items was discussed. Appointment of directors to the Stratford Economic Enterprise Development Corporation, and a motion came forward from that at this time. And that's that Matt Johnson as a representative of the manufacturing sector be appointed, Colin Schmidt as a representative of the technology sector be appointed, that Trevor McNeil as the representative for the agricultural sector, and Kate DeCoke as a representative for the small business sector, that their 3-year term be in effect until June of 2023 or until such time as successors are appointed, and that an exemption be granted to the requirement to be an eligible elector in Stratford for Trevor McNeil. Moved by Councillor Ritzman, second by Councillor Gaffney. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. At the May 11th, 2020 session under the Municipal Act as amended, a matter concerning the following was considered. And it's added at the in-camera session an additional item relating to personnel matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal employees or local board employees, section 239(2)B, was also considered. At that session, direction was given. Item 6 is hearings of deputations and presentations. And I'll just say that staff and Ms. Defoe are close to having a solution for delegations to be permitted in council, and that will probably start to occur in June of this year. So I just want to give everyone an update on that. Item 7, orders of the day. Item 7.1 is a resolution for 2020 municipal debt limits, and the staff recommendation that the report of the Acting Director of Corporate Services regarding 2020 municipal debt limits be received for information. Councillor Clifford moving and Councillor Vasilakos seconding. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 7.2 is correspondence, transition to full producer responsibility, and that's that the correspondence received from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario requesting municipalities to adopt a blue box transition resolution be referred to staff for review and prepare a report for council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Burback and seconded by Councillor Vasilakos. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that is carried. Item 7.3 is a resolution for Festival Hydro Inc. 2019 top-up dividends, and the motion to be considered is whereas the corporation of the City of Stratford is the holder of 6,995 common shares of Festival Hydro, being all of the issued and outstanding common shares of the corporation, and whereas the directors of the said corporation have indicated their desire to declare and pay dividends on the common shares in addition to those otherwise declared and or paid during the 2019 calendar year, Such further dividends aggregate to $210,479.55. And whereas pursuant to a declaration of the sole shareholder of the corporation dated January 22nd, 2001, the prior written consent of the city as the sole shareholder to the declaration and payment of such dividend is necessary. So there it be resolved that City Council authorizes the outstanding shares at a rate of $30.09 per share for an aggregate amount of $210,479.55 be declared and paid to the corporation. Councillor Bunting and Councillor Ingram, discussion. Councillor Henderson and Councillor Vasilakos.
In previous years, is that usually around $9 or is this being split out over the year?
These are additional dividends. Our regular dividends would be closer to $1 million. These are ones in excess of that.
Good, thanks.
Councillor Vasilakos.
I just had a question around how this compares to other years.
It is, if I'm not mistaken, right on par with other years. Ms. Baroness, would you be able to provide any further information to that, or Acting Director of Corporate Services?
Yes, through the chair, it is comparable to previous years.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Councillor Ritzma, question?
A question just with regards to what the province has done with regards to decreasing the amount of cost for households for electricity. Will that impact us anywhere down the road?
Yes, it will. The revenue that Hydro has received so far this year is down substantially for a number of different reasons. First and foremost, there is over 7 to 8 weeks of manufacturing that is shut down. So our portion of the distribution rates that we had received are declined because of that. There is also additional carrying costs. Well, the province of Ontario had announced the reduced rate for residential hydro during the peak periods during the day. At this time, Festival Hydro is continuing to, of course, pay that higher amount until such time they can true up the amount, so they are using some of their line of credit paying interest. And of course, the waiving of interest and penalty on bills until after July is also cutting into some of their revenue for the year. But there will be forecasts brought back through finance over the coming weeks from Festival Hydro. And the 2020 dividend report is scheduled to be before council at May 25th council meeting. Ms. Thompson has just told me Festival Hydro's finance department is putting that together for us to be part of the forecast that Ms. Baroness and Ms. Thompson will bring forward.
Thank you.
Anything further? Not all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 7.4 is postponement of Canada Day public celebrations, and the staff recommendation that July 1st, Canada Day, public celebrations be cancelled and the staff be directed to work with organizers on an alternative date. Mover, Councillor Vasilakos and Councillor Burbach. Discussion? Councillor Ingram and then Councillor Gaffney.
Who were the partners that we were working with on that celebration?
Normally the Kinsman Club are part of the celebrations in the evening and with the parade. And in the past, it used to be the business improvement area, the city center for the daytime celebration. And last year, city staff did take a lead on it with other partners involved. Councillor Gaffney.
I think that answers my question too. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anything further? If not, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 7.5 is a resolution for the 2020 Upper Thames River Conservation Authority levy follow-up. And the staff recommendation that the additional information regarding the 2020 UTRCA levy be received and that council determine if they wish to consider an appeal of the levy and the details for such an appeal to be considered. Councillor Gaffney.
I'll move the staff recommendation and not consider the appeal of the levy
seconded by Councillor Vasilakos. Discussion. Seeing Councillor Ritzma.
Just a question, are we aware of any projects that are being delayed as a result of the current pandemic? Delayed or maybe not going ahead with?
Mr. Dolovic, if you'd like to offer anything you might have, as I'm aware that they did do some of the early riverbed work here in Stratford, and I believe that was the only major project they had at this time. Mr. Dolovic, do you have anything further?
Yes, to your worship, you're correct. There are no other projects that are being planned on hospital closures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.6 is a resolution. It's a request for low-income energy assistance program, LEAP, to be delivered through the City of Stratford Social Services Department on behalf of Festival Hydro. And the staff recommendation is that the Director of Social Services be authorized to enter into a service agreement and any related documentation with Festival Hydro to act as the lead and intake agency for the delivery of low-income energy assistance program, and that the 15% funding allotment for program administration and delivery fee be applied to the funding allocation available to applicants of the LEAP program. Councillor Henderson moving, seconded by Councillor Burbach. Discussion. Not all those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you. Item 7.7 is the tax rate bylaw for 2020 that's been amended. And the staff recommendation is that the report of the Supervisor of Tax Revenue dated May 11, 2020 regarding tax rate bylaw 2020 amended be received, and that Schedule B of the bylaw 39-2020 be amended as recommended. Councillor Clifford moving, seconded Councillor Gaffney. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Item 7.8 is a resolution regarding emergency child care support eligible workers in Stratford, Perth, and St. Mary's. And the recommendation is that the emergency report for eligible support workers in Stratford, Perth, and St. Mary's be accepted for information, and that council authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the memorandum of understanding with the Stratford Perth Family YMCA. Councillor Ingram moving, Councillor Ritzma seconding. Discussion. Councillor Vasilakos.
I was just wondering if opening up another site helps us out. And there was a waiting list for this, and there is a backlog. Does this help fill that?
Ms. McElroy.
Yes, through your worship, it will. We are currently standing as of this morning with 8 on the waiting list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's anything further, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Item 7.9 is a resolution. It's for the implementation of reloadable payment cards for recipients of Ontario Works. And the staff recommendation is that council authorize the Chief Administrative Officer and the Acting Director of Corporate Services Treasurer to execute the delivery agent agreement and statement of work with Royal Bank of Canada, as well as any additional necessary documents for the purposes of implementing the RBC Right Pay Reloadable Payment Card Program for Ontario Works recipients, and that Schedule A to Delegation of Authority Bylaw 135-2017 as amended, be further amended to delegate authority of the Chief Administrative Officer and the Director of Corporate Services Treasurer to execute agreements and all other documents with respect to the reloadable payment cards for recipients of Ontario Works. Councillor Henderson moving, seconded Councillor Burbach. Discussion. Councillor Gaffney and then Councillor Henderson.
Just to be clear, I read the report, I just want to make sure I understand. And through you, your worship, people are not going to be required to carry an RBC bank account to participate in this program, right?
Ms. Bernis, or Ms. McElroy, sorry.
Through the chair, I will direct that the manager of social services, Ontario Works, is on the line, Alice Bridges.
Chair, there is no requirement for a $5 emergency bank account to participate in this program.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Henderson?
Yeah, so I read the report too, and I think I've already asked, but I want to double check. That $2 charge a month, the city would be paying that, not the, and the second question is there a way that they, the clients can check how much is left on their card? Especially the ones that don't have bank accounts.
Mr. Burgess?
Through the chair, that is correct. The city will be covering that cost. I will not be able to put into the $2 charge. And there is a portal as well as a telephone portal you can call in, very similar to what you do with a reloadable Visa card to RBC. So they will be able to check their balance.
Councillor Vasilakos?
Sorry, I have one more.
Oh, sorry.
And how long, if they use it, does it take to replace the card?
Through the chair, we can have a replacement done the same day. So it's actually quite a quick turnaround. The replacements are handled by the local office.
Councillor Vasilakos?
We had this discussion before at social services, but it's kind of, that there's support for people who maybe need to learn how to use this, or also support for people who maybe don't have necessarily consistent internet access to check their balance, things like that. So I can see where there may be some people who sort of fall through the cracks in being able to use this, and whether there are alternatives or whether extra supports are being considered for those individuals.
Through the chair, we will be able to have more cases with when we roll this out. We're going to do a very slow targeted rollout, so that we can support the individuals, make sure they understand how to use it, and then we will be able to, with their permission, assist them in checking balance and things of that nature, to take away the burden that's on them. And just to be clear, we're going to push direct deposit where we can and try to help our clients get bank accounts set up. Local bank cards only to those individuals who cannot access the bank accounts. We will always try with direct deposit first. With those individuals who may struggle with accessing, whether that be internet to check balance or just to learn how to use the card, we will offer support through the office to make sure they understand and they're comfortable using it.
Thank you.
Councillor Bunting, and then Councillor Henderson. Councillor Bunting, can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry about that. With respect to the card that may be lost, where do they get a replacement? Do they have to go to the bank or do we get them elsewhere?
Through the chair, that will actually come through the local office, through our office. They can request a replacement if they call in and have it mailed to them. But we also will have card stock on hand, so we can create a replacement for them. It only takes about 10 or 15 minutes for that card to become active.
Thank you.
Councillor Henderson.
If this gets passed today, which it probably will, but how long will it take to implement this?
Through the chair, we're working with the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, so it's kind of based on their timeline. Right now, we're looking at a mid to late June rollout, or that was when we would go live. We look at start rolling cards out in early July, if that was the case, and then kind of do a targeted rollout. So it'd be most likely late June, early July.
Is there anything further? Thank you, Mr. Burgess. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. There is no business of which previous notice has been given. Item 9 is report of the Community Services Subcommittee. And item 9.1 is to pursue transit bench advertising. And it is that the motion is that council authorize staff to further pursue the opportunity of a revenue-generating transit bench advertising program, and then staff work to create advertising guidelines, including location and types of advertisers. I do have a mover, Councillor Beattie, and a seconder, Councillor Ritzma. Discussion. Councillor Seven, and then Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Vasilakos.
I just want to speak against the motion. I feel like we run the risk of commercializing residential areas. I know in many areas where bus route on the street in general raises concerns. I feel like this will increase that. seen enough to mitigate the concerns people have. And regarding the second part of the motion, with creating advertising guidelines, I don't really believe that we have the power to sort of put guidelines in place for advertising that sort of supersedes the freedom of speech or anything that would be more at a municipal level. So for all those reasons, I'm going to be voting yes.
Thank you, Councillor Seven. Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Vasilakos.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of questions, if I could, through you, Your Worship. Number one, is our objective eventually to have benches at all the stops outside the core? And then I'll ask my second question after.
Mr. Mosley, Transit Manager Mike Mosley, I believe, is on the line. Mike.
Yes, Your Worship. Through you, the intent would be either benches or shelters over the next 10-year period. I've got a plan at least to get 60% of that, either a bench or a shelter over that time.
Thank you. And my second question is, I know one of the problems we have with the benches we have in the park is how they get muddy around them. And I wonder if we're going to be making provision to make sure, I see one of the pictures on the report that shows a nice concrete slab, and I hope we take on that sort of program with these new benches.
Through the chair, the concrete pad is part of the install. There's the vendor would do all the capital investments, so that's the bench, the install, and the concrete. They will also make inspections to each bench to clean, repair, and maintain the unit on the actual unit and immediate area around it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mosley.
Councillor Vasilakos and Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Councilor Seven's concerns around the sort of commercialization of speeding of public service throughout the city. And also these advertisements, I've seen that lots of cities use them and you see them, and they are prone to getting tagged and vandalized and things like that, and they do start to look quite messy over time. And so I do have concerns about the proliferation of this kind of advertising through what is essentially our residential neighborhoods. So unless I saw a lot more detail on where they might be and limited to commercial areas, I don't think it makes sense.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson and Councillor Ingram.
Yes, I was wondering, I don't think I asked this before, but I'm wondering if we can work out a deal with PRP plastic, because those benches never have to be painted. I know I see the ones that they have in there, but I think you have to repaint those type every, what is it, 4 or 5 years or something? And I understand they're going to be taking the cost for that, but I'm just thinking if there's a way that we could, work with a local business and I'm pretty sure you'd still be able to come out on the back of them. And it's an idea.
Thank you. Councillor Ingram.
Yes, just further to Councillor Vasilakos' point, I think part of this motion is to develop the guidelines for the locations, and so as part of that is developed, then perhaps based on these comments, Mr. Mosley would not include a lot of the residential areas, and that it would be more of our arterial streets and roads and commercial areas. And so I'm guessing that this motion, if passed, would flush out a lot of those details.
That is the belief. Mr. Mosley, you were going to highlight the locations for us, correct?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. The vendor would actually do an audit of all bus stops and make recommendations to myself as where they think suitable locations would be. These would be popular stops, high traffic areas, spots where a shelter wouldn't be feasible just because of room, and there'd be no residential installed. So see like Ontario Street or Erie Street, or Huron, it'll be streets of that nature, where these would be installed, or at least recommended to be installed.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Vasilakos?
So, could we at this point include that no residential locations would be included in that analysis? We could put that at the front end?
Through your worship, yes, we've, that's already been stipulated that there be no benches of this nature in residential areas.
Councillor Seven and Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, just further to that, I just think I think another way to put this contextualize it is that we would never go out seeking revenue by putting out small signs or advertising for vendors in places in the city, even if that wasn't residential. And so I don't think this should be viewed any differently. I think that is essentially what we're doing. And whether or not it saves us, a little bit of money here, I think, like I said, the savings does not outweigh the downside, and we certainly wouldn't, even at twice the price, look to be selling signs based throughout the city to advertise.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Well, I just wanted to point out that basically the whole city is residential, and if you do it on Huron or Imperial Erie, there's still homes on those streets. I mean, and McCarthy, people that can be very busy too, and they'll have, there's homes on there too, so. I mean, I understand what you mean, you probably mean, around schools and things like that, but just to say residential is, would be a very tricky one, because basically then you're only saying you can have it downtown.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Vasilakos, Councillor Burbeck.
Well, and I just thought of that, downtown would be the heritage district, so would it be allowed downtown in any of the benches and bus stops? So would that be excluded as well?
Mr. Mosley and...
Yes, sorry, Your Worship, through you, anything that would be considered heritage would go through the proper channels as far as, I know there are guidelines for furniture and bus stops and benches and shelters. It would go through the Heritage Committee prior to any install in the Heritage District.
Councillor Burbeck.
Thank you. Further to that, I'm wondering if you've done any market research, and do we know that businesses in Stratford would be interested in such an advertising program? Is there any way that we could include that sort of market research into this recommendation or into the work behind this at this point? Because we don't want to put a program in place and then realize that no businesses are really interested in this type of advertising.
Mr. Mosley.
Through Your Worship, that was something that we could easily do to find out the interest of those wanting to advertise.
Councillor Vasilakos.
And just, the further we go down in this conversation, the more I think what a headache this could be in terms of choosing locations, and people may have said about locations, and the Heritage Committee not wanting to include some benches. Like, it just seems to me like for the amount of money that we could generate from this, is it going to be worth the anticipated headaches? And I understand the desire behind it to make the money from this and maybe support expansion of seating and shelters. I just see so many, roadblocks to people accepting them either close to their shop or in the heritage or close to houses. So I just have a lot of concerns around how much pushback we'll get after it's already, and how many complaints about it being messy or being tagged and things like that. Anyways, that's my last one.
Councillor Henderson.
Well, I'm just thinking about this, we already do advertise on the bus shelters. So would we sort of complement it, if there's advertising on the bus shelters, then just match that? Or have we thought that out yet?
Through Your Worship, There would not be a bench installed where a shelter is presently. They would basically look like the two pictures in my report, although there is an option to do with aluminum coating, which would somewhat match closer to what the shelters look like. But the bench would not be placed beside the shelter. The shelter already has a bench.
Thank you. Councillor Clifford.
Yeah, they normally ads on transit as you drive around, and I don't think ads are a bad thing if they're done professionally and it helps to pay for the cost of transit. So I support this type of project.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed, if any? 1, 2, 3 opposed. The motion carries. Thank you. Item 10 is notice of intent, and there is none scheduled for today's meeting. Item 11 is reading of the bylaws, and they can be taken collectively upon unanimous approval. And the bylaws are 11.1, appointments to the SEEDCO board. 11.2 is agreement for provision of low-income energy assistance program. Item 11.3 is amended procedural bylaw 140-2007 to permit electronic delegations during declared emergencies. 11.4 is an amendment to bylaw 39-2020 to revise the 2020 tax ratios. 11.5 is transit project contracts. 11.6 is the memorandum of understanding with the YMCA for provision of emergency child care services. Bylaw 11.7 is to amend the delegation of authority bylaw 135-2017 with respect to reloadable payment cards. They can be taken collectively. Councillor Bunting moves and Councillor Ritzma seconds that bylaws 1 through 7 be taken collectively. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? I'll declare that unanimous and we'll go to first and second reading. Councillor 7 moving and Councillor Ingram seconding bylaws 11.1 through 7 for a first and second reading. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that carries. Third and final reading is Councillor Vasilakos and Councillor Gaffney moving bylaws 11.1 through 11.7. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Item 12 is consent agenda, and there are 2 items on the consent agenda for council. Councillor Vasilakos.
I'd like to send a letter of support for CA 2020-050, the Township of Armor, the Revolution for All. I know it doesn't that fast, but I cannot even imagine what it would be like in communities right now where families are trying to do online learning and they don't have high-speed internet or even trying to stay connected. So I think that in support of our rural neighbors, maybe we can support this.
That's been seconded by Councillor Ritzma. Discussion. Councillor Gaffney.
Does that include the people on Kelly's Lake?
I hope so.
All right. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Anything further on the consent agenda? New business. And I have I have one item of new business, and then we'll go to Councillor Ritzman and Councillor Gaffney. The Stratford Agricultural Society has asked with regard to the resumption of the Stratford Farmers Market. Staff have been working with the Huron-Perth Public Health and the Ag Society, and they are in the midst of finalizing a strategy that they could reopen the market this Saturday using an outdoor area only, and provisions would be made in an effort, if council could signal by way of motion subject to sign off of staff and the Huron-Perth Public Health Unit, that they be permitted to go forward this week. That would give Mr. St. Louis the ability with Ms. Thompson to finalize those arrangements. Ms. Thompson, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I don't know, there is a staff recommendation there.
And the staff recommendation would be that the Stratford Farmers Market be allowed to reopen outdoors for food sales only, starting May 16th from 7 a.m. till noon, ensuring that the Huron Perk public health guidelines for operating farmers markets under COVID-19 restrictions are followed. Councillor Vasilakos and Councillor Burback moving and seconding. Discussion? Councillor Seven and then Councillor Henderson. Go ahead.
I guess, two questions. I assume the provisions include sort of more space available so that their groups would be further apart?
Mr. St. Louis, if I could. Sorry.
Yes, that's correct. There'd be, I believe it's an 8-foot separation.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is there real orderliness to food stamps?
Councillor Ritz.
Through your worship, that's the essential order, is that the market could reopen to food-only vendors.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Henderson.
I'd be very interested to know how they plan to limit the people coming in and getting in the line at each vendor, because market people tend to go and look at all stuff, well, similar to the grocery stores. I'm curious how they're gonna do that there, people pull up, and are they gonna have like sort of an aisle set up that, you know, you've got the 6 feet deep for that? Curious how they're gonna do that.
Councillor Ritzma, I know you sit on the market piece, and Mr. St. Louis, maybe if either one of you had some information.
So I can speak to that. A plan has been submitted to the city, and to Councilor Seven's question, yes, there's an 8-foot space in between each booth. The vendors will receive a letter indicating to them to have as much as possible pre-packaged, so the patrons will move along fairly quickly, so it won't be like a browsing type of market. You'll come in, there'll be a line, a queue, which spaces patrons 6 feet apart, and then as the space comes open in the purchasing area, then that next patron can step in, much like what's going on at Zehrs or other grocery stores at this time. And to that end, vendors will be encouraged not to have conversation, address the need of the patron, and present it to that. So the idea is we're going to try it, and certainly there's going to be some challenges. A member from the HPPH will be there to help navigate, but certainly I think it's a good idea in support of farmers, and also an opportunity maybe to take away from some of the challenges or the amount of traffic in our grocery stores.
Anything further? It's been moved and seconded. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. St. Louis, for your work on that. I saw Councillor Ritzman and Councillor Gaffney both had their hand up.
Question to your worship, to Mr. Delovic. Is it my maybe optimistic outlook, but can you explain the current status of potholes in the city? I know they're being filled, but are they down from other years, etc.?
Through your worship, I would have to check the staff. I know that this is doing with potholes, but just going by this past winter has been a little bit easier on the roads than it has in previous years. That I can say based on the weather we can get this year.
Councillor Gaffney?
Yes, your worship. I was wondering if councilors should or could receive information on the ridership on the buses these days. Like if we get a weekly report or something showing the numbers of users.
Well, why don't we refer that back to Ms. Thompson to work with Mr. St. Louis and Mr. Mosley to put that together in a structured format?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ms. Thompson will just take that as direction. We need to pass a motion. Councillor Seven.
Yeah, I just have a question for Mr. Gulovic. I guess when we passed the agreement, the understanding was that the same trucks would be used, and And I guess maybe I misunderstood that they were picked up at the same time, the green bins and the garbage, but my experience here since they started, they come by like a separate time just for the green bins. I didn't know if you could elaborate on that at all.
Yeah, through your worship, what the issue is for the contractors is getting delivery of some new trucks. So we're having to make do with the setup that they have now, with their preferences to have one vehicle that can do both pickups.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if they had to be or not, so thank you.
Councillor Bunting and Councillor Vasilakos. Councillor Bunting, can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry, video and site support tonight. With respect to the green bins, to follow on, we did get a number of the waste that was consumed or affected on the first occasion, which was quite costly. I see a lot of green bins out as I drive around. So, is there any chance of getting a number each week? I presume you get billed each week for a certain number, and get track of the updated, maybe even on a monthly basis as to how it's going.
Mr. Chair, the plan I did have, what I can say for the month of April, the numbers, but I can just tell you we're on track to collect based on that, those from April 6th to the end of April, say May 1st. We were on track to collect about 800 tons of organic waste for the year. So I think when we talked to council, we said 1,000 tons for the year based on 30%. So we're in that 28% area right now that we are collecting in the rate of organic waste.
Thank you.
Councillor Vasilakos, then Councillor Gaffney.
I had a call from a citizen who was interested in perhaps some volunteering around city gardens and beautification, and knowing maybe, city might be under a little bit of pressure not to do some of the planting or care of the beds, or I don't know what the agreement with the Stratford District Horticultural Society. And it just, he said that there were a number of, his neighbors and friends and people that are home enough doing that, so is there an opportunity for citizens to volunteer in those kinds of things. So I didn't have the answer, but I thought maybe it's staff to have a look at whether there is. I know lots of people are looking to volunteer in lots of different ways in the community and help out, and this is just another way that maybe there is some opportunity to the horticultural society to do a little bit of community involvement through this.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Mockler can take that back, but just so you're advised, we have collective agreements, and when we have employees on layoff, that would not be permitted, and even if they were not back, but Ms. Mockler can take that back and advise council at a future time. Is there anything further? Councillor Gaffney, Councillor Burback and Councillor Gaffney. My apologies, Councillor.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. This is just a follow-up on something I brought up 2 weeks ago with new business. Again, residents at Canyon Street Housing were very eager to get their possible community garden started, and with the prospect that it might actually be spring or summer soon. So just wondering if we could get a follow-up on that.
There is a recommendation and a staff report coming regarding community gardens to the May 25th council meeting, and it will be covered in that document. Councillor Gaffney.
Yeah, just to put in a bit more information on Councillor Stebbins' question. They must have at least one truck, because I saw it in operation a few weeks ago, and it's a pretty slick setup, being able to do both streets on one truck.
Thank you. Is there anything further? If not, we have the conformatory bylaw for today, which is 11.8, and it needs to be read a first and second time. Moved by Councillor Ingram and seconded by Councillor Beatty. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And third and final reading of the confirmatory bylaws, Councillor Henderson and Councillor Seven. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. And a motion to adjourn this afternoon's proceedings, Councillor Clifford and Councillor Burback. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon.